I want to start the video like this. Transformers 1 was good, go see it. If you wanted me to validate your opinion on how good it is, consider yourself validated. I am here to just talk about a very fatal flaw in what I think is an overall fantastic film. And I do mean fatal. The overall quality of the film I think is lowered dramatically by this. I would say this issue is even worse than that awful first trailer that they released that made this movie look like a kid's film with really dumb jokes.
It's working! Where's my head?
I see people talking, oh, don't judge the movie based off its trailer. No, that's dumb. That's the entire purpose of a trailer. If someone sees a trailer for a game or TV show or a movie, and they decide not to engage with it based off of that trailer, that's not the audience member's fault. That's the trailer working as intended. Now, it's the fault of the marketing team or whoever made that trailer if the trailer is not an accurate representation of the movie. Especially in this case with Transformers 1, where it clearly wasn't. But this isn't about that. This is about the voice acting and how I think it fatally affects this film. Now, some of you might say, Spark, why do you care so much about voice acting in an animated film? Well, I would say to you, Mr. Strawman, that I don't think it's pretty unreasonable to care about voice acting in an animated film. Number two, I don't know if you know this, but I kinda have an interest in this kind of thing. At least enough to make content consistently on it for 3 months. Sure, it's not an anime, but it doesn't mean I care any less. And C, it's because this movie is so good I want to talk about this. If this movie was as bad as the initial trailer let it out to be, there'd be literally no point in talking about this. I wouldn't even have seen the film. Now definitely, because this delves into the realm of voice acting, I know some people are not going to agree with my take on this. And that's fine, you don't have to agree with me. I just need you to understand where I'm coming from. Now I understand we live in this day and age where they hire Hollywood actors to play major roles in animated movies. I don't necessarily have a problem with this, as long as the voice fits. I'm pretty lax when it comes down to what I think fits or not. Unfortunately for Transformers 1, I don't really think any character in the main cast fits here at all. Optimus, Megatron, Bumblebee, Alita, they all don't sound right. Now that's not to say that they give bad performances, no. I can at least tell the performances they give are great, except for Bumblebee. But just because they perform well doesn't mean that they should have been picked for this. Going in order of least offensive to most offensive, we're going to start with Scarlett Johansson as Alita. Honestly, her casting isn't bad, but it's not good either. Talking with my friend about it, he was far more harsh on her than I was, but we could at least both agree that recasting her would be an improvement. Second would be Optimus Prime. I can tell he's trying to put in a good performance, although sometimes when he gets more emotional, he tries to sound a bit gruff, like he's trying to do a Peter Cullen impression, and it just does not work at all. His best performance is when they were on the train and he was convincing the miners that Sentinel Prime took away our freedom and we're gonna go fight and get it back. It was actually really good. His miscasting becomes most apparent after he becomes Optimus Prime. Especially his speech at the end of the film, oh my god, it's hard to listen to. Third is Bumblebee. To be honest, you can kind of tell that no fucks were given when it came to casting because they actually casted Keegan-Michael Key as Bumblebee. He's like the telltale sign that no fucks were given. I mean, if you actually thought that he gave a good performance as Bumblebee, I mean, I'd like to know why you thought that, but I'm gonna move on. And with our number one, the one person who got done dirty the most is Megatron. I don't know who this Brian Tyree Henry is, but I can say he kinda got screwed over. Since the start of the film, his voice just recognizes as wrong and ill-fitting. Unfortunately, Megatron has a lot of emotional scenes, and definitely, Brian is acting his ass off. However, his miscasting shows every time Megatron speaks. There is not one line in this movie that Brian T. Henry has that even remotely sounds like it fits with the character. And it's really unfortunate, but because Megatron has this kind of descent into madness, where he becomes the villain, it makes every scene that shows this emotional progression infinitely worse. Though I had that tier list about how bad the castings were, Bumblebee would actually be at the top of that list, above Megatron. Keegan-Michael Key's voice does not fit with the character in any capacity. However, because he's not a main character and he doesn't really have any lines or scenes that heavily impact the story or are supposed to be emotional, it doesn't do as much damage to the film overall. as opposed to Megatron, who is a main character and has a lot of emotional scenes that heavily impact the story. So having a voice that fits is very important because it affects your ability to connect with a film. Can't really do that if the characters don't sound right. I'm going to use an example to better express what I'm talking about. This is Holy Night. Holy Night is the second worst English dub I've ever heard in my life. It's essentially a will they won't they relationship between a vampire hunter and a vampire herself. It's been years since I watched it, so I don't remember off the top of my head. However, the main character, who is in high school and has a long history of being a vampire killer, or comes from a long line of vampire killers, like the Belmonts from the Castlevania series, you'd expect him to have at least a convincing voice that the guy was in high school, or something, maybe who sounds like he hit puberty, and then you get hit with this shit.
Sorry about that. I'm Shinta Mizumura. Do you go to this school? A child is born from the union of two people who are deeply in love. At least, my grandpa said that.
Oh yes, that is his real voice. It's just as bad as it sounds, and it actively takes away from any kind of seriousness. Now, I'm not saying that Brian Tyree Henry is anywhere near as bad as this main character from Holy Night. What I am saying is that they live in the same house and share a bathroom. Another gripe that I have that is much smaller is the main cast not having filters over their voice. It just sounds wrong for me to hear our main characters having no kind of filter. To me, it always seemed like the Cybertronians would have something like that, but now they just kind of have voices that sound clearly human. I'm not asking for the voice to be distorted to hell, just at least a small bit of a filter. Shockwave, Soundwave, and Starscream all had it, and that turned out fine. I'm even willing for a kind of tiered system. So Cybertronians with no cogs, they don't have a filter over their voice. But when you get a cog, you get a slight filter over your voice. And for our main characters, when Optimus and Megatron make their transitions into Optimus and Megatron, they get heavier filters over their voice. Why? Because they're the main characters, so they get special treatment. Not a big issue, but I definitely would have appreciated it. I know this is definitely going to be an unpopular take, but this is all stuff that I thought after my first viewing of the movie. I don't want to lie about what I thought just because the movie is really popular. On the contrary, I do want to make my criticisms known because I do want to see improvements made if there is going to be a sequel. And with that, I hope you enjoyed at least hearing my take on this film. Moral of the story, Transformers 1 is good, and the marketing team who made the trailer and the casting directors need to get put to a firing squad. My name is Mr. SP, thank you for watching and see you next time.